Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. We've got a stellar lineup for you for a Christmas special. Dan Overall, Donn McClean, Steve Jones, Charlie Poste, and Matchbook Ambassador trainer Olly Murphy, as you can see. Olly's going to shoot in about 5-10 minutes or so. So we'll kick off with you, Olly, if we can, and just sort of sum up your big guns you're sending out this Christmas and into the new year. Olly, it sounds like New Year's Day is going to be pretty busy for you, particularly at Cheltenham. So just give us a rundown of who you're sending there and why.
Yeah, Cheltenham's going to be a busy day for me. New Year's Day. Thunder Rock's actually going to take up his engagement in the Dipper instead of running in the Wayward Lad at Kempton on the 27th. Had a long chat with Max McNeil, Adrian Heskey and Turney yesterday, and we just decided that 2.5 is his trip, and I thought it was a kind of a good trial for him to see whether we're going to stand down for the Grade 1 after. So he definitely goes for the Dipper New Year's Day. Thomas Darby drops back into handicap company for the first time in a couple of years. He's going to run the 3-mile handicap hurdle there. The Wolf and Itchy Feet will both run in the 3-mile handicap chase. So yeah, we'll have a busy day there. Bring Up a Storm runs in the Rail Kill. He's in really good form. He's actually just galloped as we speak. So looking forward to running him second run after a wind up, and hopefully if he produced one of his better performances, he'd have a chance, you know. Okay,
so just on Thomas Darby, is that a per temps qualifier or not? So I probably
it's not. It's not. No, I had him in a per temps qualifier at Wincanton, and he had 12 stone. I just shied away from the idea, Tom, to be honest. Yeah, we'll drop back into handicap company for the first time. I've had a long chat with Graham Waitley about him. He's obviously been a complete star for me and Graham, but ultimately he is extremely hard to win with now. Obviously with a mark in the 150s, he's just that little bit off being a Grade 1 horse, you know. And in England, there's not a lot of opportunities for horses rated 150 by you run them off 12 stone in a handicap or run them in a Grade 1. So we're gonna go back and run him in a handicap and see how we get on. And all else fails, we may even see him jumping a fence again before the spring and trying to win a novice chase or two.
Okay, interesting. And on Thunder Rock, who has looked really impressive so far, going up in trip with a view to the Scilly Isles, is that potentially if he can make it into that type of horse?
Yeah, I thought so. He's a 150 rated chaser, Tom. I think he's very smart. So yeah, he was very good first time out in New Toxin in what was a very competitive race. He then made mincemeat of a couple of horses in Ascot, and I think the right thing to do is stepping back up to 2.5 miles, where he was very good over hurdles and air on his last start last year, and I don't see any reason why he can't stay the trip. And yeah, it looks a nice trial for kind of the season going forward, whether we make up into a 2.5 mile kind of graded horse or whether we go back down the handicap route or what we do. But yeah, I think he's good and looking forward to running him at Cheltenham.
Okay. Anything you're particularly looking forward to running at Raisin or Huntingdon or Fontwell or anywhere?
Yeah, I've got loads of runners everywhere. A horse I actually really like is a horse called Rambo T. He's got to go down to Fontwell and take on that Gravega, is it, of Gary Moore's that looked good at Lingfield the other day. But my lad has some good bumper form. He was third first time out in Ascot, and yeah, looking forward to running him. I don't know whether he'll beat Gary Moore's, but he's a nice horse, and I thought he'd run very well. Chasing Fire goes to Market Raisin. Was meant to run the Kennel Gate. I bypassed Kempton. There's a couple of engagements for him, like in the first couple of weeks in January. So I thought if I went to Kempton and got a hard race, I'd then be looking at the end of January, and I'd only had 2 runs. So yeah, he goes to Market Raisin. Hopefully he'll go and get the job done. And
he's unbeaten on it. I mean, is he one of the smarter novices, do you feel, Chasing Fire?
Yeah, I think he's good, Tom. I do. I think he's very good. How good's very good, I don't know. But I've got some nice 2-mile novices this year, from him to You Can Tango second in the Supreme Trial at Cheltenham in November. Strong Leader, who's looked good in his last 2 starts. But yeah, I think this lad is good, and I wanted to step up in grade, but it just didn't really work kind of from his second to his third run. So we're going to go to Market Raisin and then step up in grade after. Hopefully, all being well, he'll get the job done at Market Raisin and go to Haydock, I'd imagine, for the race John Bond won last year.
Okay, one other horse I wanted to ask you about was Fingal Bridge, because I think it was Steve Jones. I can't remember who it was who suggested this horse might be quite a nice bump horse, or it was Charlie. I can't remember who it was. Charlie was probably claiming that he broke. He claims he broke in every single one of your horses, Ollie. You can't have done them all, but he was beaten when favourite at Uttoxeter. Were you just?
No, I was delighted with his run. To be honest, Tom, he was very raw in Uttoxeter. He's going to go to Chepstow on the 27th for a bumper. Very nice horse. Looks an extremely warm race actually at Chepstow, but the track will suit him, soft ground, and whatever beats him will win, I'd imagine. Yeah,
fair enough. Steve Jones.
The only thing I know about Fingal Bridge is it's a fantastic pub on top of Dartmoor next to the river. Good fishing. That's all I know about it.
That sounds about right. Ollie, we can just about let you go there unless anyone has any burning questions for the trainer. Happy? Good. All right,
yeah,
Ollie.
Yeah, I've just got one, if you don't mind, Tom.
Worked. Did you want to ask something, Dan?
Yeah, just one I was curious about. I think you mentioned him in some of your earlier stable tour. Butch, I think, runs on Boxing Day as well. Huntingdon, I think. Obviously, it wasn't exactly the expectations on hurdling debut, but where do you think you're at with him? And do you still like him going forward?
Dan, he came back. I've never been trained in 5 years. Never had a horse come back from the race as sick as he came back. He was absolutely covered from head to toe in ringworm. He burst very bad, and it actually didn't burst into his lungs, but he burst very bad after the race. Did everything arseways, and I was in Newmarket Sales when he ran. I could not believe my eyes what I was seeing on the TV screen. I thought he was one of my nicer novices, and he obviously ran appalling. But he's come home. He's had lots of excuses. Scored well this morning. Looking forward to running him at Huntingdon. Very much starting again with him, but yeah, completely ignore his first run. He's a lot better than that. He's gonna be a lovely chase next year. But he's a horse now that I really like. His bumper form worked out really well. He finished second to Crambo of Fergal O'Brien's at Huntingdon, his only start. And I thought on the day we were half an unlucky loser. I thought we got mugged. But looking forward to running him. Nice horse. I'm not saying he'll win on Boxing Day, but he's one to keep on the right side of now for the second half of the season.
That's Butch, who runs in the Huntingdon Open, I think, on Boxing Day. Good stuff. Ollie, thanks, bud. Have a good one. Merry Christmas.
What's the Boxing Day banker, lads?
Right, you're not going to believe this. Every single one of them in the long walk has gone for Goshen.
Really?
Yeah, we've all collectively lost the plot, I think.
Really?
Ask Ollie what he'd have gone for.
What do you fancy in that? Champ, Paisley Park, Goshen?
Good question. I think being sentimental now, I'd love to see Paisley Park win, but I wouldn't be so sure whether it might just all happen a bit quick for him round there. But we'll see. It was a fantastic race. I was very surprised to see Miranda, however you pronounce her name, second favourite. But looks a competitive renewal. There's some great racing over Christmas, isn't there? And a great day to be sat on the couch on Boxing Day if you haven't got to go to market raising with 9 runners like myself.
You'll get someone to drive you, though, won't you?
We will do, Tubby. I've run in the 3:35, and Villa are kicking off at 5:30, and we'll try and get back to Bone. So I hope my bumper horses run fast, because I have to get somewhere rather quickly.
Yeah, Ollie's got a big framed photo of Stephen Gerrard in his office with a big love heart around it. I mean, you loved him, didn't you, Ollie?
Oh, I loved him, yeah.
Oh, man. Right, all the best. Merry Christmas. Cheers, Ollie.
Cheers, lads. Happy Christmas.
Good luck to Ollie this Boxing Day and throughout the festive period. New Year's Day is going to be busy for him. All right, let me remind you of the usual business then. So like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Head to insights.matchbook.com for a recap of all the best bets. Esteemed producer Dan Hussey has promised to get that up later on today. The Other Side of the Fence with Olly Murphy is out now. Any presenter worth his salt would have asked Ollie about that when he was with us. You know, what are you going to do? It's really good, though, isn't it, Ollie? Yeah. And the Premier League returns and NFL Week 16 best bets are out now. So Dan Hussey has been very busy indeed. Okay, let's get stuck into the preview. First of all, we're going to have a look at the King George. Where else to start but the big one, Braidman's Game and L'Empresse. I mean, I'm a little surprised at this with decks out. You can't split them. 3.0 the pair, 7.0 Hitman, 8.0 Embois Allen, and then we go into the bigger prices. 21.0 Royal Pagaille, incidentally. We'll come to that. All right, Team L'Empresse. Dan Overall, kick us off.
Yeah, I'm firmly in his camp, to be honest. I mean, I thought I was really shrewd a couple of weeks ago. I backed Eldorado Allen each way at 25s, thinking this race is going to be 6 runners, 5-6 runners. I'll watch Eldorado Allen come into third and I'll be laughing. And that hasn't happened. We've actually got a very decent renewal here. But even still, and despite the fact there's plenty of pace angles here with Frodo and Ahoy Senor, obviously Hitman might go forward as well. I just think L'Empresse is the best horse in this race. He's proven at Cheltenham and at Newcastle, he doesn't need to lead straight away. He's tactically versatile. And the only thing that's took him to the front there has been his jumping. And now people are going to say, oh, he's probably going better the other way. But I've also heard the argument all season for Ahoy Senor being better left-handed despite jumping out to his right. I'm not convinced that these conditions are really going to inconvenience L'Empresse that much. I think when it comes to Brave Man's Game and Hitman and Co., I'm still not convinced about what they find in a finish. Whereas L'Empresse, on the other hand, I think he's a real battler and he isn't exactly short speed. He bolted up over 2.5 miles multiple times last season. I just think he's the complete kind of 3-mile chaser and I'd be all over him, to be honest, here.
All right, Charlie.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, I think the fact that he is tactically versatile is going to be a massive bonus in this race. I think there's plenty of speed. There'll be a real good gallop on Frodo, on Ahoy Senor. Brave Man's Game will be up there. He can trap them through. His jumping, touchwood, seems to be rock solid. And he just looks like a massively improving horse. And he's got sort of, championship contenders all over him. I thought the performance at Newcastle was outstanding, especially if you're saying that he was going to come on for the run. And I think that, nearly, it makes him nearly deserving to be favourite. And Brave Man's Game is a funny one for me. For whatever reason, he's a very, very good horse, but I've just never... He's one of those horses I never really warmed to particularly. And like I say, I'll be with Dan. I'll be all over L'Empresse in this.
Don McClean.
I feel, yeah, look, I think I agree with the lads on L'Empresse. I think he's probably the best horse in the race. He's actually £5 higher on official ratings. I know Steve loves his official ratings than everything else in the race after that Newcastle run. But I just... Yeah, I prefer to see him on soft ground at Cheltenham like he was in the Brown Advisory Chase last season. And Brave Man's Game, he's done it at Kempton, so you can see why he's been popular. He was very good in the Charlie Hall, and after the Charlie Hall, Paul Nicholls said that he was going straight to the King George more or less, and he's got a phenomenal record in the race. He's won it 12 times, 5 of those with Cauda Star, but even without Cauda Star, he's won it 7 times. So you can be sure that Brave Man's Game is going to be a concert pitch. But yeah, I like Envoy Allen, and I know he doesn't have an awful lot of love around the place, but I just thought even last year, I was looking forward to seeing him stepped up to 3 miles. We know how good he was as a novice hurdler and as a bumper horse, and he won his first 3 novice chases before he fell in that March chase. And then last season, he beat Battle Over Dying unimpressively at Leopardstown over Christmas. And then he ran the champion chase and in the Punchestown champion chase, both over 2 miles. But he stayed 2.5 miles well, so it was great to see him doing what he did at Down Royal the last time. That was only his second run ever over 3 miles. His first run was in the novices chase at Punchestown when he came back lame. He just wasn't right. And, I know you can knock the form. Like Galvin didn't run his race at Down Royal. He came back wrong. Conflated was having his first run of the season, so he'll probably improve from that. But Envoy, he did a lot wrong through the race. His jumping wasn't as good as it can be. He nodded on landing over the second last. He kind of hung to his left as well. But I thought he did well to battle on as well as he did to get the better of Kemboy. And Kemboy, I know he's 10 years old now, but he was race fit going into the race. He's a 160 rated horse, and Envoy battled on well to beat him well. And I just think that he's been underrated a wee bit by the market at whatever 8.0 or 9.0. I think that Rachel Blackmore, it's great that she's gone over to ride him. She'll sit in behind. Henry Brownhead's horses are in really good form now. And I just think Kempton can suit him. If he can jump as well over 3 miles as he does over 2.5, then you can see him just traveling really well into the race. And there's a good chance that Kempton will suit him really well. And I think he's a big player in this race.
Okay, and Jonesy.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great race, L'Empresse and Brave Man's Game, but I just can't understand why Frodon's 20-1. And with 9 runners, good each way race, I think that is Well, 21.0, I think he is actually, not what I just said. But people have overreacted to his Betfair Chase run. I think on the market is overreacted, certainly, because his record, second start of the season, tends to be his worst. He hasn't won second time out since winning a 4-runner Fontwell Novice Chase 6 years ago. And he generally bounces back. So I think that was good that he ran in that. His Badger Beer run was exceptional. I think he'll get on the front end. There's a lot of horses that cannot possibly be competitive in this. Royal Pagel, Miller's Bank. Hitman? How on earth is Hitman that price? There's so many holes in Hitman. It is untrue. And I'll come to it later on.
Obviously want Hitman to. Everybody now wants Hitman to win.
We've said some horrible things about Hitman on this show. We really have.
It's just ludicrous. When you consider, last time, that was a good race. When you consider Envoy Allen, who I do respect, is a longer price than Hitman, I just despair. And when you consider Frodon, who is the toughest horse, and he'll just be on the front end, he'll be jumping, and he'll be hard to pass. And when you talk about tough horses, you start at the bottom and you get about 3 up from the entire list of horses in the world, and you come to Hitman. So, Frodon.
Who's above him? Who's above him?
Everything. Even Tom Stanley. Even Tom Stanley is above him in the Attitude Stakes. And he won't stay, and he's got no chance. But Frodon is the complete opposite. And I think he's winning place. I think he's got a great chance.
Will he definitely be able to lead them?
Doesn't have to, though, does he? He just has to be racing prominent. And if something wants to go quicker, they're probably going too quick.
I'm going to go with a bit of an odd one in the form of Royal Pagay. Only I just remember last year on the day, everything just came from off it. They're going to go really hard here. And I think win and place in a night. How many we got?
Are they going to go hard?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to go hard?
Well, do you remember what Lon Presse and Ahoy Senor did at Cheltenham?
Ahoy Senor won't be able to go the pace around that.
Frodon's not going to.
Ahoy Senor will
going to be in behind, but not exactly leading on the line.
After 2 fences, Ahoy Senor won't be anywhere.
So there's 4 front runners in the field, and you think they're going to crawl?
Who would you consider a front runner?
Frodon.
Yeah.
Ahoy Senor.
He won't be able to get near it.
But he is a front runner.
There's one thing setting out with an intention to front run, but after 2 fences, when his jumping's all there, he won't be anywhere near it.
I cannot. If Ahoy
Senor's
where's the
other two?
Stand by, caller.
Hitman could go forward again.
Hitman's
gone forward. God! If they go forward to that, he'll be beat after 5 fences.
Braidman's game's gone forward. Lon Presse.
Yeah, but they're not going to go mad, are they? They won't go. They won't go too fast. I promise you.
They won't let Frodon have the scenario of when he won it, though, will they?
No.
No, probably not. But he doesn't need to, does he? Because he just keeps galloping.
Am I all right to make my case, Jonesy? Is that all right?
God, if you have to.
It's basically Royal Pagay smuggling around 21.0 for a place. Course and distance winner. He's not just a Haydock specialist, although he probably is. It's a bit of a shithouse selection because I can't decide at the top of the betting. But I do think he's got a better chance of placing than his odds would suggest. Done.
It seems like we're getting plenty of rain as well, to be fair. It seems like we had plenty this morning and a bit more, so it could end up soft, or at least soft side of good to soft, it would seem.
I think it would definitely be soft side of good to soft.
Be perfect. Be perfect ground.
And they're going to crawl.
for a slowly run King George.
Didn't say that.
If Frodon makes all now, I'm going to feel I'm going to be like, oh, come on. Nothing gets into it. Jonesy laughing all the way at the bank. Right, anything else to add? Good. Let's move on to this absolute shit show of a tipping. This is a disgrace. The long walk hurdle. This is, well, I haven't even got it up in front of me. Here we go. This is how they bet currently. Champ 3.0, Miranda 4.0, Paisley Park 4.0, Goshen 5.5, Not So Sleepy 13.0. Now, look, I don't think Goshen is a terrible shout. I just can't believe you've all gone for him. Don, tell me why.
Well, I agree with that, Tom. I thought I'd be on my own with Goshen. I'd be like eating humble pie quite early on in this, but I thought he was a bit of a left field selection before I saw all the other selections. When I went to put mine in, admittedly, they were all in before me, or most of them were. But I just think, look, the move from Ascot to Kempton is not a positive for Paisley Park. I think he might struggle and then will run on. Champ's a player, but he's 10 years old now, rising 11. Goshen, I just think that there could be, like, he's a kind of a speculative selection more than anything else in my book. But I think there could be more to come from him. Obviously, going right-handed, he needs that. I thought he was very good at Ascot the last time when he beat Bruin up a storm, and he beat him well. He stayed on well. That was 2.5 miles. He's from the family of Ellie May. He won over 1.6 miles on soft ground as a 3-year-old in the flat. And, of course, he would have won the Triumph Hurdle. But Triumph Hurdle horses, to win a Triumph Hurdle, you need stamina as a juvenile hurdler over 2 miles. And Tiger Roll won a Triumph Hurdle, Farclaw won a Triumph Hurdle, and they were both, or are both, staying horses, like extreme staying horses. And Goshen, I just think he could improve again for stepping up in trip. And you can see him getting out in front and maybe getting depends on Not So Sleepy does, but maybe getting an uncontested lead. And look, he's got his quirks. He's always a risky betting proposition, but yeah, I thought at 6.0 or thereabouts, I thought that was a wee bit bigger than he should be.
All right. Whoever wants to catch it, you can all chat amongst yourselves with Champ. Go on.
I'd say actually that for me, the presence of Not So Sleepy is actually a positive, because I think when he won it the other day, we had Full Pleasure kind of towing him along. We know what Full Pleasure's like. He's very keen as well. I'd quite like it if Not So Sleepy took him along for a bit further and just helped him to settle over 3 miles, as we know he can be quite keen in his races. And again, as Don said, I thought he was very good the other day, and he didn't win that in the style of a horse who wanted dropping back in trip, or you even thought wouldn't stay further. He was getting niggled along a long way out that day, and giving £6 to Brewing Up a Storm and then beating by 8 lengths. Now, look, we know Brewing Up a Storm, we know his level, but to do that, I thought that was an impressive performance. And just given the age of Champ and Paisley Park, obviously Goshen's only 6, it sounds like he's been around for a lot longer, just because obviously he's been, as a juvenile, we've known him and followed him for so long now. He's just the younger horse who's unexposed at this trip, and I wouldn't really be overly enthused about backing the older horses here. So I just thought he was the younger one, unexposed at the trip. Plenty of reasons why to expect he might get it. And yeah, the price is there for a change, when normally Goshen's a pretty short price. So this time I'm willing to give him a little bit of a chance.
Steve?
I was ready to unleash on Gary Moore's other one, your horse, Tom, Botox Has. And I was disappointed that he's not running, because I think he would have a right chance. So I just came down on Goshen because I didn't like Don says, there's 3 10-year-olds that'll be 11 in a week or so in the field. And he's not really bred for 3 miles. But like Don says, Triumph Hurdle horses have always tended to stay very well later in their career, the likes of, like Don said, Tiger Roll, but also going back to Paddy's Return in Comanche Court and horses like that. So I think he's certainly worth a shout at 3 miles around somewhere like Kempton. And although he's a funny old boy, he has got the potential, whereas others, where Champ, they've always said wanted to go left-handed, Paisley Park is going to find it too sharp, and nothing really in the field excites me, and for that reason I think it's worth taking a chance with Goshen.
Okay, I thought Champ was a little bit too big. I think he's the best, most solid horse in the race. It'd be a very small win bet. And Charlie, you're still with Goshen?
Yeah, I'm still with Goshen as well. I mean, I think it was just price related for me. I thought, I wasn't sure the trap was ideal for Paisley Park or Champ. I was surprised Miranda was the price she was. I mean, she won that listed race impressively at Kempton last time, but I thought she had stacks to find on form. Goshen's won his last 3 starts, right-handed over hurdles. I think there's a chance he'll get the trip. He was impressive the last day at Ascot, and yeah, I just thought he was too big relative to the quality of the opposition, and I thought he was an interesting contender.
Okay, moving on to the next, which is the Quarto Star. Paul Nicholls unloading his big guns here. He's got a couple in it in the form of McFabulous and Gelino Bello. So we've got McFabulous 1.73, Gelino Bello 4.33, Time Hill 6.5, 6 Gala de Latour, and Mortlock 34.0. Charlie and I with Gelino Bello, I think that's right. I thought I'd rather back this horse, Charlie, than McFabulous. For all he was very impressive ahead of Time Hill last time. He can just put in a stinker. I think he's better in a small field, and he's got that here. But I've been impressed with Gelino Bello so far. He's obviously a Grade 1 winner over hurdles at the back end of last year, where Paul Nicholls famously came back into the winner's enclosure and went, "Is that a Grade 1?" And he was delighted. Yeah, I think there's just a bit too much between them in the betting. I know on ratings, McFabulous is the better horse, but I prefer the profile of Gelino Bello. He's 2 years younger. He's always looked to chaser. I'd rather have him, Charlie.
Yeah, I agree, Tom. I was nearly tempted to put McFabulous up as a lay if he ended up shorter than sort of 2.0. I just thought Gelino Bello, like you say, he won a Grade 1. It probably wasn't a fantastic Grade 1, but I think he's a dour stayer. He's got size and scope for chasing. I think I might be right in saying McFabulous last time round Newbury, I think that was his first go at 3 mile. And, he saw it out well in a small field, sort of tactical race where he was able to dominate. But I just wondered if this got really testing and as a contest that is he the most resolute, and for that reason I just thought, like I say, if they went strong early and they turned in the pair of them, I'd probably rather be with Gelino Bello than McFabulous, because I'm not always sure he's the most resolute.
Well, this is the thing. He over hurdles, he didn't look an out stayer. So that's why I don't love him. Now, nobody else has got an official bet. I thought, Dan, interesting for you on Gala de Latour. No bet, but you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I think this is a bit of a joke of a Grade 1, really. I mean, they've been beating fields of 2, 3, and 4, like McFabulous and Gelino Bello. Like, this is a bit of a nothing race, really. I think if Ballygriffin Cottage would have run, I would have been all over him, but the Skeltons have sent the mare instead. And I think she's a very interesting horse. They've clearly always thought she's pretty decent. She was highly tried last season against the boys. Her form ties in quite nicely with the likes of Complete Unknown. And she has a lot to find on figures, but her chase debut was really impressive. Looked a complete natural. That was over 2 mile 1 at Bangor. I mean, she has form over 3 miles over hurdles. So 2 mile 1 at Bangor would have been definitely on the sharp side. So she looked pretty impressive under the circumstances there. Look, she has a bit to find, but I really don't know what those at the top of the market have actually achieved over fences here. I mean, they're all kind of tying in with each other. They beat small fields. I'm just unconvinced by all of them. So I thought her at a price, I'd be more willing to side with her. And to be honest, I think she's the type of mare who could end up being a mare's chase contender. I think she's 25-1 for that race. If she was to run pretty well here, like that would probably shorten, given how anti-post markets work. So I just thought she was the more interesting runner here, because of the others, I really wouldn't be overly enthused about their prospects longer term for other Grade 1 chases when they're actual Grade 1 chases and they have to beat more than 2 horses.
Should also pay compliment to Dan on his background. It looks like the set of Frozen. Hugely impressive.
I know, right? Well, last time we were on a stream, you said, can you get a little Christmas tree for me? I did better. I actually moved house to get a better Christmassy background. That's commitment, Tom. That's what I'm all about.
It's seriously impressive. and well done for the reindeer jumper as well.
Oh, thank you.
Don, maybe you can make just a very quick sort of counter case, given that we've sort of been against McFabulous. I know no bet, but why would you side with that horse?
Yeah, I think he's the most likely winner, Tom. I just thought, I know Time Hill completely underperformed the last day and didn't jump well at all, but I thought he did it well. He jumped well, and he was an impressive winner at Exeter the time before. He was a good hurdler. I do agree, though, I'm not certain about his stamina. Like in the Cleve hurdle as a hurdler, that was only run over 3 miles over hurdles. He didn't stay, or it looked like he didn't stay. I think maybe even Paul Nicholls said afterwards that 2.5 miles would be more restricted than 3. But look, he saw that well enough at Newbury the last time. He's 8 now, rising 9. Maybe he's going to stay better, and he'll stay better maybe over fences than over hurdles. And look, he's the highest rated horse. He's Harry Cobbins riding in preference to Gelino Bello. So all the indications are there for all that. His price is fairly restricted, so I won't be backing him. Time Hill and cheap pieces for the first time. They'd want to have a big impact. Like, he's the classy horse over hurdles, obviously, but his jumping the last day behind McFabulous was just, he's just going to have to leave that completely behind. And, you know, horses going over fences as 8 rising 9-year-olds, it's hard. He's been jumping hurdles for quite some time. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes in cheap pieces for the first time. But I just think McFabulous is the most likely winner.
All right, let's move on to the Christmas hurdle. Obviously, there is a Christmas hurdle in Ireland this Christmas period. That's over 3. This is the 2-mile Christmas hurdle at Kempton. I didn't even get the market up. Oh, here we go. What is he? 5's on. And I'd also want to give you the champion hurdle betting, because we tend to do the update whenever one of them runs. Now Constitution Hill 1.36 compared to Stateman 7.0, Honeysuckle 10.0. That's changed a good bit. Jonesy, we missed you out last race. Nobody's got an official bet here. Sort of, what's your just to sit back and watch, John?
Sorry, you froze then, old boy. You need to turn the heating up.
Apologies. Is this just to sit back and watch, John?
Yeah, I mean, I don't bet odds on. I don't bet short-priced horses, but how could you possibly take on Constitution Hill? You might want to bet the forecast, but I suppose you could make a case for So Royal, but Epatant's probably the most likely horse to finish second. So it's not a betting race for me at all. It's just it's a nice chance to see Constitution Hill. I was a bit disappointed that Nicky Henderson was saying there's no races for him between now and Cheltenham, which is a little bit disingenuous. But every opportunity you get to see great or potential champions like Constitution Hill, the better. And the more you see them, the better it is. So looking forward to watching the Christmas hurdle and hoping that everything goes to plan.
That's because they got rid of the Contenders hurdle.
Yeah, which was always a very competitive race. So I think one year there was even 3 runners.
Does anybody have anything to say from a betting point of view about this race? You don't have to. We can just move on.
Just on the distance, Tom, like his hurdle wins, he keeps on winning by a long distance. And, you know, I know with like some of these odds-on shots that you look at distances and you think, oh, they're far superior, they'll win by plenty, and they don't win by that much in terms of distance and probably have more in hand than the winning margin. But it's probably hard on Constitution Hill not to win by a long distance. Like, I think the average winning distances of his 4 races is 15 lengths, and like Highway 102 could probably lead him for maybe a hurdle or a hurdle and a half. But after that, like he's probably going to win and win impressively. So I don't know if Matchbook are going to have markets on the distance, but might be an idea just to have a look and see what way they're betting on that.
All right, I'll find out for you. I promise. Let's move on to the Roland Merrick. Essentially, betting opinions we want. We've got plenty on this. The 135, Shamblu 3.25, Into Overdrive 6.5, Sounds Russian 8.5, Chantry House 9s, bigger prices the rest. Dan, overall.
Yeah, now this is a different kind of betting race, isn't it? This is a proper decent race, actually, but you've still got some fairly questionable characters in here, and I just think the race is set up nicely for a solid each-way option, and Sounds Russian would be that one. And for Peter's Punch, yes, that is a disco ball. I didn't put that up there. At my parents' house, I have no control over the decorating, so please leave off on the abuse, please. But that does Sounds Russian. Like, he's rapidly progressive, and he continues to run career bests. Like, obviously won at Kelso on his seasonal reappearance. That was a decent race. And then in the many clouds, like, he was only beaten 4 lengths against proper graded horses. Perhaps he isn't just a graded class animal, but back into handicaps. And you look at the opposition here. Obviously, there are some interesting rivals, but a few you'd have very big question marks over. Was he 8.5, Tom? I think you said. I think he's just a rock solid each way option. Look, it will take another career best off 157 against the likes of Shamblu, but it's only his 8th chase start. He just seems to like the tempo of handicaps. Forestair, yeah, I just thought he was a bit overpriced. I can see him shortening a bit there as well, because I think a lot of will see that he's a solid each way choice.
Completely agree. Yeah, I've got very little or nothing to add to that, really. One on his reappearance, and then I thought he ran with credit last time. I don't think 1.5 few more boxes for me than others. I haven't completely bought into Shamblu. I can see why he might go and win this, but Don, you have.
Yeah, I do like Sean. I think he's got so much in his favour, Tom. Like, he's off a mark 148, which is workable. He's still relatively lightly raced over fences. He's had 9 runs over fences, but Fresh and Wetherby, his record at Wetherby is phenomenal. He finished second over hurdles there. Then he won over fences there last season on his first 2 runs of the season. Then he was obviously going to go and win the Charlie Hall Chase really impressively on his debut last season. And back at Wetherby, by his first run of the season as well, he goes really well Fresh. And it's probable that Dan Skelton has had this race in mind for him for his seasonal debut, probably since the end of last season, really, given how well he goes Fresh. And like, his jumping at Wetherby is superb. So yeah, look, I know he's favourite, but I think he's the right favourite. Into Overdrive ran well last time behind L'Homme Pressé, but L'Homme Pressé kind of quickened away from him. They were up front early on, and he just kind of stayed on. And we know that Charlie Deutsch was very easy on L'Homme Pressé in the end. So in the bare form of that, beating a length by L'Homme Pressé at Newcastle, even though he was receiving lots of weight, that's a big run by Into Overdrive. But I thought it might have flattered him a wee bit. And yeah, I just think Shan Blue has plenty in his favour.
Steve?
Yeah, Into Overdrive for me. I agree with Don. I thought it was a good run. Although he was flattered at Newcastle, he did split L'Homme Pressé and Happy Go Lucky, getting loads of weight. But that's when you're getting loads of weight off class horses. It's still difficult to do that. It's easier to carry big weights against lesser horses than the other way round. So the fact that he was stepping into that sort of race, having won previously at Wetherby, over a lot shorter, but he's gone round Wetherby fine. He's very straightforward. He just races up with the pace. He jumps and gallops. He stays well. He's particularly unexposed. He won his previous 4 races to that run at Newcastle, which you've got to say was probably a personal best, even though he was second. And I just think he's a well-handicapped horse still. And like Dan said, I thought there was some pretty unreliable horses in here, and I didn't think it was as competitive as perhaps it first looks. So I'm pretty keen on Into Overdrive, and I think he's a really nice horse.
And Charlie, you're with JP Runner.
Yeah, an unreliable horse as Chantry House, but he is there's no doubt he's a quality horse on his day. He's a good record Fresh. I mean, he had the one run this year at Aintree, but didn't get very far. So I'm almost treating it as his first run of the season. He's had the wind operation. I thought the vibes were pretty positive about him before Aintree. And I just thought the jockey booking was interesting as well. Robbie Dunn, he's a very good rider of chasers, horses that, don't always find the best rhythm. And I just wondered if he might be the sort of jockey that could get a tune out of a horse like this. And if he does, there's no mistaking the fact that he has a heck of a lot of underlying talent for all that he has an inconsistent profile.
I've missed the jockey booking, and you've made my ears prick at that on a staying chaser, definitely. Okay, let's move on. We're going to Ireland. This is the Racing Post Novice Chase. We've got Fedor 1.91, Hollow Games 3.0, 5.5 Samoa, Midnight Run 21, Visionarian 26.0. Okay, 3 shouts for Hollow Games then. Go on, Dom.
Yeah, and Jack Kennedy isn't one of them. He's chosen to ride Fieldor instead, which is interesting. And just chatting to Gordon Elliott at Fairy House there the other day, and he said he was going to probably run them both, and he wasn't sure which one Jack was going to ride. So it's very interesting because Fieldor was obviously a high-class juvenile herder last season, and he was beaten by Brazil on his debut this year. Then that was over hurdles, obviously. Then went to Navan and beat Saint-Ouen over fences on his chasing debut. He jumped well that day, and the pair of them finished well, clear of the rest. But so Jack Kennedy's chosen to ride him. Also, Hollow Games has to give him £6. So Fieldor's only a 4-year-old. He gets the age allowance, and that's a factor. But I'm sure it wasn't an easy choice for Jack. There probably wasn't that much between him. And Hollow Games, like last year, he ran over longer trips, over 2.5 miles and 2 miles 6. Actually, he ran in the Nathaniel Lacey and Partners Novices Hurdle at the Dublin Racing Festival. That's over 2 miles 6. He finished third in that. He wasn't beaten that far by Manala Cooner. But the last day at Navan over fences, he was very good. It was 2 miles and a furlong, and he showed an awful lot of pace that day. Jack Kennedy rode him, gave him a lovely ride in front, kind of stacked them up, and then he quickened from the third last fence, or from the second last. He jumped the last 2 fences well, and he came away from his rival. And the race probably isn't working out as well as you would like. There've been a couple of horses that have run from it since and have been beaten, but the Hollow Games really couldn't have done much more than he did. It was the way that he jumped and the pace that he showed. And yeah, like back over 2 miles, even Gordon was saying that he kind of tried to make him into a longer trip horse last season, but 2 miles the last day, 2 miles over fences, that looks to be his bag now. And yeah, I think there's a fair disparity between him in the market. Probably obviously influenced by the fact that Jack Kennedy's riding Field Door, but I don't think there should be as much between him as there is in the market.
All right. Who agrees? Steve?
Yeah, I was impressed with Hollow Games. It's when he won last time at Navan, and the way he did it, the way he jumped, and the way he stayed on really well. And Navan's quite a stiff track, isn't it? So I was impressed with him. I think he will be better over a bit further, but I do like novice chasers when they drop back in distance a little bit, because you tend to get a fairly easy-ish time up front. I know that there's a few other front runners in there like San Roy, but these races are generally won from the front, because any horse that's ridden a bit more patiently and hits one suddenly has a bit more ground to make up and a bit more ground. And you go back to horses like My Way to Solson, who want to stay as hurdle and then drop back to win an Arkle. And I think that's an interesting angle with novice chasers. They do tend to be able to cope with a drop back in distance. And I think he'll go later in his career, Hollow Games will be going back up in distance. But for now, I can see him just getting on the front end. And if he jumps as well as he did at Navan, he's going to be hard to pass in the closing stages.
Dan, you can finalise the trio.
Yeah, not much else to add. I think the guys have covered it quite well. Mainly, it's a price thing for me. I think you're looking at a bit too big of a discrepancy there. I know he's got to give Fildor £6, but I love the way at Navan he quickened in the home straight, pinged those 3 fences down, going some pace as well. I think he'll probably get a more aggressive front-running ride. And yeah, at the prices, I just side Hollow Games for all the reasons the guys have already laid out. All
right, and Charlie, we're going the other way again.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was a lot to like about Fildor's chasing debut at Navan. He jumped really well in the main. Jack Kennedy's chose him. He gets a 4-year-old allowance, £6. A 4-year-old has won this before. Clarkham won it for Gordon Elliott a few years ago. So that was purely what it came down to for me. Like I say, I'm going with Jack Kennedy, and I think the £6 allowance could be crucial.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add is I wondered if Fildor might be just a little bit more of a natural over this distance. For all, Hollow Games was very good last time. They did try 3 miles with him at the back end of last year. That was just the only sort of added weight to the Fildor case. But a small win bet for me. Peter says Fildor. Yeah, couldn't he? All right, let's move on to the Forheen Novices Chase. We'll get the prices up for you very shortly. It's another Gordon Elliott inmate right at the top of the betting. In fact, I'm waiting for a new market on this since Dec, so just bear with me. I will let. I'm a no bet at this. I couldn't find one. Don, you said Jerry Colomb no bet. There's a few shouts for Kilcruck. Go on, Charlie.
Again, it was just this was price related for me. I just thought that Kilcruck has more proven. Well, he has proven Grade 1 form in the book. Jerry Colomb is undoubtedly an incredibly exciting talent, but sort of is yet to have kind of reached a sort of same level as Kilcruck. So it was just price related for me, that the fact that you're getting double the price of Kilcruck, and he's kind of been there at that level and done it, finished just behind John Bond in the Supreme. And like I say, if he's transferring that level of ability over to fences, it's a big mark of a Jerry Colomb to go for. That's not to say he can't, but just prices like I came down with Kilcruck.
Yeah, 1.9 versus 3.0 Kilcruck, Dan.
Yeah, and look, Jerry Colomb, I loved his chase debut. I thought that at the time the race looked really strong, but it's taken a few knocks since. I mean, Coccolino and Sam's Profile, who were both up there, they've been very well beaten since by some distance as well. Tenzing of Willie Mullins as well was beat by Ramille the other day. And look, I think if you asked Willie who he thought was the better horse between Kilcruck and Tenzing, I don't think there's any comparison there. I think Kilcruck is by far the more talented horse. And for as much as last season was a disappointment, he still achieved a decent amount, and you get the feeling that he was never really right last season, whereas now it might just be his time to really flourish over fences. Look, the race he won on Chase debut was a real nothing race, but you'd have to be impressed with how fluent he was during the race over fences. He jumped really nicely. And I think if you just look back, this is one of the best bumper performers we'd seen when he won at Leopardstown and was finished second to Sir Gerhard. We had an off-peak Kilcrut, still running in all the top races, wasn't far behind John Bonn and Supreme. I think fundamentally he's just achieved more than Jerry Colombe has, and that's not Jerry Colombe's fault. He hasn't had the chances to, but in terms of what they've achieved thus far, I think there's too big of a price differential. And if Jerry's only beating Tenzing by a couple of lengths, I'd say Kilcrut is far ahead of Tenzing in the Willie Mullins ranking order of novice chasers.
And Don, if Jerry Colombe went to even money, would that tempt you in?
Not really, Tom. No, it's a race for watching. Look, it's a hell of a race between the two of them. I fully agree with the lads on Kilcrut. Like he's a serious talent, but Jerry Colombe also is and could be even better. Like Jerry Colombe is the kind of horse that you can see excelling over further. Like he won at Thurles last January over almost 3 miles, and 2.5 or 2 miles 5 the last day at Ferry House. I know he only won by about two or three lengths in the end from Braun, and Tenzing stayed on, almost got up for second place in front of his stable companion Braun. And I know Tenzing got beaten by Ramirez last time, but Ramirez jumped very, very well, and Ramirez actually he could be a horse who will far surpass his hurdles ability over fences this season. But Jerry Colombe, yeah, like Gordon Elliott said pretty much after the race that this was the race for him, that he'd come on to the fighting chase at Limerick. The ground is soft there now, and they're expecting a wee bit more rain, so it's going to be testing, as it almost always is at Limerick over Christmas. And yeah, he's just such an exciting look. Kilcrut's a very exciting horse as well, but Jerry Colombe, you just think that he's got that stamp of a chaser who could be a very, very good staying chaser. And yeah, for me, it's a race to watch and enjoy, but I think the betting is the right way around.
Gordon yesterday did assert with Jerry Colombe, fine for now, but just with an eye on the spring, he considers him a soft ground horse. Okay, let's kick on to any other bets going forward. So this is for the 26th and the 27th and beyond, if you like. I'll just go in order that I see you. So Charlie, hit me with your bets for the remainder of the Christmas period. Take it away.
Firstly, Tweed Skirt in the 12:18 at Wincanton Boxing Day. She really nice filly, underachieved a little bit last year, but sort of had a wind up, went chasing, absolutely slammed them at Kempton off of 118. She's up 10 for that, but I still think that could underestimate the level of her ability. I think they kind of thought she was a proper black type filly. It's quite a competitive little contest. Not sure what price she'll go off, but I think there's a lot of mileage still in her chasing. And like I said, on the back of this wind up. Then Kempton, 305, West Cork, I think is really, really interesting for the Skeltons. They love plotting one out. And this lad, he's had 2 runs around in novice chases around Warwick behind Stage Star and John Bon. He's jumped okay and ran okay on both occasions. And therefore, I just wonder if that was the plot all along, to get some experience into him, have his mark not shifted, because you'd have thought they could have found a winnable opportunity for him quite comfortably with a horse of a level of ability of 140. And yeah, they are just one of the best in the business for this sort of job. And I thought West Cork was a cracking bet. And then Welsh National, big outsider, but the two amigos, Wynnum Place. He's a bit of form in this sort of race. He ran okay last time out at Haydock. He loves marathon trips. If the ground comes up very soft, he's got 10 stone 2 on his back. And like I say, he's been second this race before. And he loves an absolute war of attrition. And it could end up being like that if the rain continues. So the 2 amigos each way in the Welsh National.
Lovely. I'll endeavour to give you a price there. Steve, you agree one of those?
Very much so. Very much so. West Cork, I think, is the bet of the Boxing Day, who it's run twice at Warwick, which wouldn't be the easiest place to jump around, especially when you're chasing Stage Star and John Bon. 2 miles wouldn't have been his thing against John Bon last time. But like Charlie said, I like the fact that he's got that experience. They haven't put him under pressure. And he also jumped out to his right at Warwick, and he's going right-handed the first time over fences. I've been waiting for this horse to run a handicap, and that's what he does. And you go back to his hurdle days, although he won the Greatwood around Cheltenham, his previous wins were around Huntingdon, very similar to Kempton. So I think everything is his favour. I expect him to be very well backed. I think he's about 6.5 at the moment. Massive price. Oh, and the other ones, Rare Edition. This is potentially the best horse Charlie Longston's ever had. It's won really well the last 2 starts. Runs in the novice hurdle at Kempton, first race on the card. And Rare Edition has got, I think he's a serious horse. So I'd be backing Rare Edition in that. And the Welsh National, the horse I fancy in that is Harry Fry's horse called Ask Me Early, who's got his own way of jumping, but he's another one. The Welsh National, you've got to be somewhere near the pace. You can't be clever and try and come from way back. And Ask Me Early is just a galloper. So hopefully get on the front end and just keep jumping and galloping, and you'd have a good chance.
10.0 for your shout. The Two Amigos 34.0 for Charlie. Dan, who are yours?
Yeah, so first one, we're going to go to Fontwell, because of course we are for Hidor de Berse. He showed a liking for fences on his chasing debut. I thought he jumped really nimbly, just tired late home, and actually beat by a horse of Olly's who'd had a run under his belt called Parliament Hill. I think that race was fairly decent for the grade. You look back to his hurdles form, he had one at Fakenham before, so a track like Fontwell promises to suit. And this looks like a weaker race than he was in last time, and 116 still looks a very workable mark when you consider his hurdles form. Tom Simmons, very well at this track in previous years, 4 wins, 3 places for 11 runners since 2019. And History Bear won at this meeting last Christmas, so he clearly does target it. Then on to Kempton in the last, horse called Grey Dawning for Dan Skelton. I think they were very keen on this lad earlier in the season. He won 2 bumpers. They said it was pretty much a miracle he did that because he's all over a staying chaser for the future. But for now, he can do plenty of damage off a handicap mark 123. The third on his hurdling debut finished second in the grade 2 behind Henry II, is now rated 128. He beat Lallygag last time out. That was his only defeat over hurdles, and Lallygag's now rated 131. Was giving £3 when you could take into account the jockey's claim that day. But again, when you look at Grey Dawning's handicap mark 123, it looks really tempting, and it's a competitive race, and it's probably, he does lack experience. He just looks too well handicapped to ignore, and I imagine he could go off quite a short price. And then one, I'm not sure if he'll run or not. It's on the 27th at Chepstow in the 3:35. It's a novice handicap because he's right at the bottom of the weights, but a horse called Angler's Crag for David Pipe. You go back to his bumper form in Ireland, he was running behind the likes of Sir Gerhard and Flamebearer for Terence O'Brien. Moved to David Pipe and still very unexposed. Like, he beat Dubrovnik Harry on his hurdling debut, who's now rated 128. The third that day is rated 126. You can ignore the fact he was pulled up next time out because that run came about 10 days afterwards in heavy ground. Clearly just way too soon for him. Good reappearance the other day over hurdles, but he's all over a chaser in the making. He actually had 2 easier entries on Boxing Day, and I'm gutted he didn't go for one of them because I would have made him a serious bet there. But he looks a novice chaser to follow off a mark 115. So if he doesn't run at Chepstow, just have him in your tracker because I think he'll win a race off 115.
Great stuff. Don, who do you like? Just the one for you?
Yeah, Panda Boy. Back Panda Boy in the Petty Parrot Chase at Leopardstown on the 27th. Look, he's there's an awful lot to like about him. He won the Pertemps qualifier at this meeting last year, so we know he goes at the track. He goes well at this time of year. He won really well. He was off a mark of 128. Then the hurdles mark, obviously. He's rated 136 now over fences after 3 runs over fences. He won his beginner's chase on his first run over fences back in May, so kind of before his summer break. I know it's officially into this season, but effectively it was his last run last season, and he won really well. It was 3 miles on good ground. He stayed on really well to beat Cesar Rock that day. His 2 runs this season over fences have been in graded races, a grade 3 and a grade 2. And back now into a handicap back at Leopardstown on ground. Funny, the ground at Leopardstown, they're calling it's yielding at the minute, yielding to good or good to yielding in places on the chase track. So we had some rain this morning. I live about 20 minutes from the track. We had rain this morning. They're expecting about 10 millimeters today. So we know Leopardstown dries out fairly well. It remains to be seen what the ground is going to be like. But Panda Boy, he handled soft ground last year in the Pertemps qualifier. He won his beginner's chase on good ground, so he's fairly versatile in terms of ground. And he's only 6. He's got plenty of potential upside. He's just had the 3 runs over fences. Martin Brazel's very, very good trainer. And yeah, I can see Panda Boy running a big race in the Paddy Park.
Okay, I've got 3, all in the key races. Welsh National, the big breakaway, mainly because the trainer was very positive earlier on in the week, and having a good look at the horse, he and his profile just suggest that the stepping up to this sort of distance is really going to suit. He's about 16.0. I thought that was overpriced. Definite runner, and I thought must have a pretty good chance at 16.0. Win and place, definitely. Flooring Porter in the Christmas Hurdle is in behind Classical Dream in the betting, and I can't really have that. Obviously, he was second to the horse last year, but that's because the horse got an absolute flyer, Classical Dream, at the start. They're not going to let that happen again. And I've changed my opinion from last year, thinking actually that Flooring Porter is a better, more solid horse, and I don't think there's any depth in behind either. And then in the saddles, I do think it's worth chancing something at a price, because I'm not sure the top one's going to run. I don't buy into Conflated, who got a brilliant Davy Russell ride last year. I know that Fury Road is definitely going to run. We know he stays the trip. We know he's won at the track. He's a Grade 1 winner as a novice. For all you could probably crab his form slightly, he looked pretty good when running well in a Grade 1 at Aintree at the back end of last season. He's 16.0. It's a bit of a filthy one, but he ain't going to go off that. So I want to back him now. Those are my 3. Sign up offer time. £30 welcome offer. Money back as a free bet if your first bet loses. We're going to come to our best bet. So you might choose to have it on one of those. It is for new customers only. You've got to use the bonus code INSIGHTS30. That's INSIGHTS30. And if you place a bet on any sport and it doesn't win, you get your money back as a free bet up to £30. It is, as I always say, the best way of supporting this podcast, if you like it, to open up a Matchbook account if you don't have one and place a bet on horse racing or on other sports. Okay, let's come to any back to lays or any lays. I'm sticking up Edwardstown as a lay to back in the Desert Orchid, currently about 1.74. I'll probably look to back him at 2.0 in the run. It really hinges around on how well Nuba Negra's going and whether there's other pace in the race. There's just a chance, I think, that Edwardstown turns for home with a bit of ground to make up. I mean, the fact that he went on and won by 7 lengths last time was unbelievable. And I think he'll win. But I'd look to try and take advantage of a bigger price in the run. Steve, you've got one.
Oh, Hitman, lay of the season to place. Unfortunately, he's drifting a bit. He was 6.5 or something. He's now out to win 8.0. But if you can lay him to place, it's something like 2.4, 2.5. I just cannot see how he can possibly be competitive. He's as soft as marshmallow. He will not stay, and he only performs when he can get an easy lead. And as I've been told, there's loads of pace in the race.
You know it. Best bets, gentlemen. Just a word, because we've already given them all and given good explanations. Mine is Sounds Russian, because Dan made a great case for the horse in the Roland Merrick. Sounds Russian for me. Charlie?
Tweed Skirt.
Tweed Skirt, the mare who was very good last time. Donn McClean?
And Violin, because he's overpriced.
Okay, in the King George. Steve?
West Cork 305 Kempton.
West Cork is best Cork. Dan?
Long press in the King George taking on Don, which is never a good idea, but here you go.
No. Probably not. There we are. We still got time to find out your favourite Christmas songs. I'm desperate to know this. What's your favourite Christmas song, Charlie Poste?
Oh, Fairy Tale in New York.
Yep, the Pogues. I'm with you. That's mine too. Steve Jones?
Johnny Mathis, When a Child is Born.
Oh, yeah, a bit dour. But it's you, I suppose. Probably put that on while you're telling a long story. Donn McClean?
I didn't know this was coming up. I'd say Carols of the Bells.
Never heard of it. Dan?
You know.
Chris Rea driving home for Christmas.
It was an ad. Was an ad for Garwin or something?
Oh, that one.
That one.
You have to look that up now.
You know it.
All right. What's it called again?
What?
What's it called again?
Carol of the Bells. I think it's called Carol of the Bells. Yeah.
Right, I'm going to look it up. When a Child is Born for Down Over. I did not have him down for When a Child is Born. That's what he gets the disco ball rotating to. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks for everything throughout the year. We'll chat to you again soon, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.